So hello everyone, my name is Wolfgang Ankeln and I'm sitting here with Frank Oliver Glo. And maybe you can quickly introduce yourself and your fields of research that you work on.
So thanks, Wolfgang. Yes, I'm Frank Oliver Glo and the head of the Bioinformatics and Microbial Genomics Research Group at the Max Planck Institute for Marine Microbiology in Bremen, as well as Jacobs University Bremen. And my main field is bioinformatics, so data analysis, standardization, and that's also why we are here at the moment, and any kind of data integration on a more global scale.
So you have been involved in the GSC initiative for quite a while. What are the topics that are particularly interesting to you at this meeting?
So yes, indeed, I followed GSC mostly from the beginning on, and this meeting is particularly interesting because we are talking about genomic observatories and we are talking about the Ocean Sampling Day, which is, let's say, a use case of the genomic observatories, and I'm the coordinator of the microbial project, a European EU project with about 32 partners, and so we are operating, or we want to conduct the Ocean Sampling Day in 2014, and goals are particularly of interest there.
What do you think are the contributions of the GSC to a wider community?
I think the main contribution at the beginning was really the standardization. So standardization, we developed checklists and protocols how to best deal with contextual metadata that is associated with genomes, later on with metagenomes and marker gene sequence. I think this was a great invention, had a big impact on the community. And at the moment, the GSC is really developing also. Several projects are under the GSC umbrella, like for example the exchange languages, GCDML, Rosetta Stone, or even the GOES, or even microbial as a project is now a part of the GSC. And I think this has a big also impact and on the community, because we are sticking to certain standards and certain, let's say, code of conduct, how we operate with data and how we spread it in the community and how we integrate this data.
So this is now the second day, and so far what did you enjoy most?
Well, there were fantastic talks yesterday and today. Personally, for sure, I was mostly interested in the presentation of the potential GO members, so the long-term ecological research site this morning. For sure, particularly with the Helgoland roads, which we had mostly contact in the last years, but also seeing what the others are doing and have been done. This is very interesting, and also how they operate for sure, because the idea of the GO network will be to bring all these sites together. And at the moment they all, I think, do fantastic work, but they have to somehow come together, develop common standards, develop common ideas and awareness to allow later on, maybe in the future, to integrate this data, make them interoperable, so that we can really as a whole system and get more towards a global understanding of the marine ecosystem, as has been also shown maybe by Jack Gilbert or others in the modeling. How can we deal with all the data to bring a vision of how we understand it on a more higher level at the moment.
So in your words, can you quickly describe what is a genomic observatory?
Yeah, this is, I think that's here why we want to define this exactly. At the moment, so my personal feeling is that Genomic Observatory is, first of all, a long-term ecological research site, so a site that is dedicated to, on a long run, take samples. Now, they all do this already, so therefore they not qualify immediately as a genomic observatory, but really to implement molecular sampling, taking molecular data, exactly to define how much of them, if it's a time series, if do it a monthly, on a weekly basis. I think this is not really clear. We have some first, let's say, indications say at least you should take it once or twice a year, a genomic sample or a sample for a genome analysis. But it still depends on the, let's say, negotiation or even on the discussions how we will really operate with this. So, but for me, it's something that is there, that is stable, and I can rely on this and say, okay, they take samples, biomass for molecular analysis, which is often for the classical sites not usual. So they still have a more classical ecological biodiversity approach, but they do not immediately go with molecular data. And so I think this is this shift towards this, and then very important that these sites also exchange the protocol, that they have this a common understanding what they mean with molecular data and with how to deal with all these data. I think that's something that has to be developed also in the next months or years even.
So now for a scientist, what is the benefit to also take part in this initiative if I'm working at a ecological research site?
Yeah, we had this discussion yesterday already. What is the incentive to be part of this network? I think there are different opinions, and I'm not a Go site, so we don't operate our own site. But I see from others what they find attractive, and one thing is for sure, just the exchange of technologies to understand how others do this. And as I said, often the Go's are not prepared for the molecular data, so they learn from others how they do it and how they can do it and what is the best practice in this case. Also visibility, so that if you're part of a bigger network, visibility seems to be at least a strong incentive for some of these sites. And I would hope, and this is for sure in terms of Ocean Sampling Day, one of my big hopes, that taking part in a concerted event like the summer solstice in 2014, and comparing the data, that we also have really good science from this. Because it's the first time that we, on a European or maybe global scale, we can compare the data, the analysis, the outcomes on a single day and see what is the difference between the different sites. And from there on, we can then move on maybe to time series and further science that is done on general standards, protocols, awareness, how to do this. So just to be part of this and to learn that we can do it together, I think is a major step that we have first to develop. So it sounds easy. We heard yesterday, yes, we can. In practice, it's not that easy. The whole logistics, what needs to be implemented in the backbone is not trivial.
So starting with the OSD, what do you think? It's a global and integrated initiative. What do you think once you have compiled this data set, what can you do with it and what can you actually answer? So looking at the science, what are the hopes and expectations there? So
initially my hopes were rather smaller, I would say, because initially it was just meant as a European OSD, Ocean Sampling Day. Now it turned out already with the pilot OSD that we have from Antarctica, from the US, so we have a more global international perspective, and people think about ESD, the Earth Sampling Day, something like this. I don't know if we will develop this until 2014. The outcome, I would think, is a baseline, first of all, to see, for example, the L4 sites, they have a clear dip in diversity on the summer solstice. We, at Helgoland, we have even the other side, or the different impression at the moment. And just to compare these sites and to see, okay, is the diversity really distributed equally? What is it following? So, but therefore we need also more time series. So that's rather clear. From this, I would just expect a first baseline. See, that's the status at this day, at 2014, one day. And it's already clear now that we will repeat it at least in the winter solstice, and we will hopefully then, if the goals are established, they will pick it up, and as a minimal requirement, I would say to have 2 samples per day per year, winter and summer, would be a perfect start for our Go network and a common approach in the future. If they want to do more, it would be perfect, and I think then we can really go towards, say, modeling, even better understanding, finding the key factors that are there, and even predictions, maybe how the microbial, like in the winter or like in the autumn, if you go to the forest, you know there are mushrooms because you have a certain expectation, and that's what we should develop to see. We expect these kinds of organisms, these kinds of bacteria, these kind of groups pop up at certain positions at certain time, and then we can maybe know better how the oceans are really working.
Now, would you agree that this is also a good way to monitor human impact if you think in terms of global change, or would you say, okay, this is just a baseline and we have to do some really fundamental and basic research first before we can look at the impacts?
I would think the ocean sampling day as it is planned at the moment, which is a single event in 2014, will just provide the baselines. I think we will not be able to really predict global change from this, because change implies that there is change, and so we have to monitor change. And a single day just gives you one day and nothing more. But I think that, at least what my feeling is now, that we have started with the pilot OSD already in 2012. This was out of the blue, not very organized, to be honest. But still, we get first data from this. So we have 2012, we have 2013, so we will do the winter 2012, summer 2013, winter 2013, and then 2014. So we have already 4 time points, or 2 years before 2014 as a time series. Maybe this gives us already an indication about the changes. But the global change, from my perspective, is something that we have to monitor over decades and not over years. It's maybe not long enough. Maybe in 10 years from now, if you're still sitting here, I can give you that answer.
And this is what you would also call the long-term goal, that you have this time series and then really can start to monitor, model and predict.
Yeah.
Maybe.
The time series, I think, is very important. So monitoring the microbial communities on a really, say, same level across the oceans, that would be a perfect goal to have. And maybe we can reach this.
So there are already many long-term ecological research stations out there, and there's also for sure a lot of infrastructure. So the challenge is to use the infrastructure which is already there, and what are the plans? How can this be done?
Exactly, so this is a big challenge. So it's more, sometimes I have the feeling it's more a social experiment than a real technical experiment. Okay, technically for sure you have to clarify the logistics and how it's done and which kind of what equipment are used, but this is mostly all done. But the social part of it, in terms of, are these people willing to do this? Are they willing to adapt their protocols they have maybe used for decades to a new system? Are they doing all this, that they want to do this? What is the incentive for this? So they must see the goal at a certain point of time. And at a certain point of time, the goal is to bring all these things together. I'm not sure if we will succeed, but at the moment it looks quite promising. So, and also from the microbial 3 project itself, we were not asking for money from the European Commission for the sampling itself. We just have very little money for supporting the sample, because we think that this should come from the infrastructure. As you mentioned, they have the infrastructure, they have the ships, they have all the stuff. We just want to make them aware to use them in a unified way and build a community that understands that the sum of together they are more than the sum of their parts. And maybe this works.
So
I'm sure it works for sure.
Yeah. Talking about awareness, do you think this is also an important aspect about the Ocean Sampling Day, to create awareness not only in the scientific community but also in the public? Yeah,
exactly. So we will discuss tomorrow, on Thursday to be precise, where we have our work package leader meeting. We have a first request from citizen science, or from people that are doing a summer sales ties, it's called, and they contacted us because they go out on the summer sales ties with their sailing boats, if they can do something for us and take samples. And so this is a discussion we have to do if we want to involve this kind of citizen science, because it's very clear that to raise awareness for the marine systems, we should involve. I'm personally in favor about this, but it's a logistical problem, because you have to train them in doing some samples. You need the equipment for doing this. All this needs to be somehow solved. And we don't have, as I said, we don't have the money to support this. So in theory, they have to buy their stuff by their own, but this is a bit ridiculous. So they want to do something for free for you, and then you ask them to put their own money in. So we have to think about how we can solve this problem. But I would be in favor of this, and it's also very clear. So we should raise awareness on, let's say, the citizens, so that people really know that the marine system is important. For sure, it should be also help to raise awareness about the marine system for companies and product development. And in general, for the funding agencies that there is a lot of interest in the marine system. It's the biggest ecosystem we have, and for sure that we get also funding for this, for doing research and development on the marine system in the future. So it's also a big PR event.
And do you see also other ways, not only in collecting samples, where the public could support this whole process?
Yeah, I was thinking about this just in terms of the hurdle for sampling is might be too high. They just provide, for example, pictures, physical chemical data which can be easily measured. Just simple things like this. I don't know if we can go further, so this is definitely something we have to decide or think about it, and even to provide them with, let's say, a mobile app for their mobile phones so that they can put this data in there with the GPS directly, with a picture, maybe with a movie, with some basic parameters. What was the wind? What was the weather? What was the depths here? And I'm this and that, and I have measured that temperature, and maybe the depths I can see, so the typical what you do to see how deep you can look into the water is something that they can provide. Very simple parameters.
All right, then thanks a lot for your time and enjoy the rest of the meeting.
Well, thanks a lot.